Today I'm going to do a little bit of a follow-up on the JONSBO N2. This also applies to the N3, although it's not as big of a problem on the N3. One of the few criticisms I had about the N2 was that the included fan is only 10 millimeters thick, whereas a normal PC fan is 25 millimeters thick. That means that the included fan is pretty weak, and you can't really get a replacement for it because it's such an oddball size. No one really stocks them, and when they do, they're cheap knockoff or no-name brands, and you end up with the same thing. One thing that was kind of discussed in the comments of the review, if you can afford a little bit more depth wherever you have this computer, you can actually just externally mount a fan. Some people were asking how to exactly do that. It's really straightforward, so I figured I'd just make a really quick video and show you how to do it. First, you remove the fan. You just take out the thumb screws, and then you take out all the screws holding it on. Once you're done that, you're left with the bracket and some fan grills. I can't remember if the computer case came with both fan grills. Either way, metal ones, way to go. Get them on Amazon, they're cheap. I've also gone ahead and removed the other fan grill. Fantex makes the T30, which is a 30 millimeter thick fan. It's really not much noisier than the Noctua. They're, I might even go as far to say they're about the same, but it's a bit more powerful. So you can obviously go with this if you want. Again, it just takes up another little bit of space sticking outside of the case. Either way, it's all good. I'm going to go with the Noctua. As you can see, I've just mounted the fan grill on the inside and then just put the fan on the outside. This particular model from Noctua comes with this little rubber seal, which is really nice. So it gives you much higher static pressure because you're not just forcing air through this little gap and not through the front. One issue with this mod, if we can call it a mod, the fan power cable needs to get back inside the case somehow. Now, normally it would come out the side here. So you can see what I did is I just drilled a small hole in nothing because there's just plastic there, and just ran the cable. You have to use a small screwdriver and pop out all these pins and put them back. But yeah, this is the most elegant solution, but it does require modifying a fan. You can then just reinstall the fan and you're all set. Now remember, you want this blowing out because that's how this case is designed. It's got a fine mesh filter at the front, so it's expecting you to be exhausting air through the back. Other than that, there's really no restrictions on what you do with the fan. You can have whatever fan you want on the outside. Once you've got the fan installed, you can just install the external fan guard. As for routing the fan cable back into the case, if you're not going to drill through your fan, you can route it through the PCI Express slot, but you won't have a card there, so it's up to you if you're using a card or not. You can drill a hole through the IO shield. They're pretty cheap and replaceable, or you could just leave the IO shield out and just run it into it. You might be able to sneak it through one of these if you have like a flat cable. Extension cables like the Corsair ones are thin like this, so you can just slip it through. Again, you'll have to take the connector off to do it. Personally, I think the fan route is best. I'm not sure if every fan design is really feasible for that. This one, it looks like there's a lot of extra plastic in here, so you might have to spend some time and find exactly the best place to drill. I did do some testing on this. Unfortunately, it had already cooled down for the year and it just isn't hot in this room anymore, even though I have 5 8 terabyte drives which get real hot. Testing all 3 of these fans doing a ZFS scrub, it was all within a degree. I'm going to call that not useful. Maybe I'll test it again in the summer. Obviously, the Noctua is going to do a much better job. That panned out when I was testing it initially. It was just significantly cooler. It was keeping the drives under 40 degrees. The Fantex one probably will do a better job. I definitely recommend doing this mod if you have space. The same thing goes for the N3, except it uses 90 millimeter fans. I'm not sure it's entirely needed on that one just because their fans are pretty decent and they're not particularly loud. You can get like giant fans. So like even for like probably for 120, I haven't actually looked it up for 120, but I know like 60 and 80 millimeter fans and stuff, you can get fans that are like this and they have like a double fan. So like if you want insanely loud server fans on this thing, you can absolutely do that if you want to run it in a boiler room. Normal circumstances, this is a great mod, and it definitely affected temperatures, and it's quiet with this particular Noctua. I really don't see any reason not to do this unless you're really confined for space. In that case, you're probably so confined for space you need the extra cooling cost, which, you know, if you're trying to keep real low cost, you can get even a cheap 120 millimeter fan that's 25 millimeters thick is going to do a better job than this one, because this one just has like no static pressure and it's wimpy. I wholeheartedly recommend the N2 case, especially if you're doing this. After reviewing it, I was going to send it off to my dad. I ended up getting a different NAS case, which I will post a review on one day. I kind of got stuck with this one, so I discovered that it actually fits in my fire safe. I just connect this to the network and do a ZFS replication to it from my NAS, and then just throw the whole thing in my fire safe. It's not exactly a solution I would recommend people do, but it's a solution.